to the RunnerX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Welcome back to the RunnerX podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Coach, recently we had a student come through and she was talking about how, as I read it, that she was trying to not tense up, like not tense her shoulders when she runs. But then when she thinks about not tensing her shoulders, she of course tenses her shoulders. And that whole, like, when you think about what you don't want to do, you always wind up doing it. How do we get past that? Can you help with that kind of thought process?
Yes. It's all of us have been through that, when you're running and you're thinking like, or you'll see a sign, you're doing a long run. They're like, relax your shoulders. And you're like, yeah. I am relaxed, and like your neck cords are sticking out. Right.
Yeah.
So, right. And you see runners like, a lot of runners try to mimic or emulate like, elite runners that they see. And that's one thing you notice, that most runners seem so calm, unless it's like a sprint finish, that if you watch marathoners, ultra runners, and then then our runners are like, how come when I'm running, I just feel like every step's a struggle? So it's an overthinking. And if you think about, this is so right, just like you said, it very obvious. If I think about what not to do, then unfortunately that's what I'm going to end up doing, because that's what I'm focusing on. So the reality is, if you focus on the running and on what you should be doing while you're running, not the physical action even. And this is the challenge, because we teach pulling for running, which is like the running action, pulling your foot up from the ground. Yet so many runners have tension in their upper body. Right. Because they're, and it's because you have to hold your upper body up and your head's like a big old bowling ball. Like the whole run is really a game of balance my head.
Yeah, it is.
But we don't think about that. We're so focused on our feet. So what happens is this happens to a lot of us. Like you might start to look down, you might start to bend over, you don't sense it, you don't feel it. And then all of a sudden, like with our runner, for example, we're trying to teach people and tell you guys, if you lift your upper body up, it's called unweighting. And what happens is your body weight actually will go slightly forward in running. So you're lifting, it's a perception. You're feeling yourself lift up. And what's actually happening is your body weight goes slightly ahead. So then your feet are lighter. It's a really neat experience. But to find it is like a balance.
You just mentioned doing it in running, but I've even noticed it if I try to think about it when I'm walking even, or sitting at my desk. Like if I try to feel, like you said, unweighting, it just naturally kind of takes you forward.
Right. Okay. Well, and here's the funny part, because we do teach a lot of running drills. So when people come into RunnerX, so one of the things she's been working on and really struggling with is just balancing and holding her line, right? That's a challenge for her. So I tell people the best part about what you learn when you come in with us, or even when you just start to work on your form, if you will, you're only going to improve in everything if you start to focus on your balance, on your posture, on how you stand. Just like you said, I notice it when I'm walking. Well, isn't that great? Because you actually probably walk way more than you run.
Right.
Just in life. And this one woman told me today, she said, I've been doing the trying to feel it when I'm sitting at my desk, and wow, what a difference it makes. Now, here's the thing. You can't stay there like that all day. It's so tiring, right? You're focused, you're thinking about it. But when I'm sitting at my desk or when I'm standing, I actually have more ability to focus on my posture than during my run when I'm having to run and breathe heavy and all of that. And so it was just really neat that when we start to help people, and this is what's going to help her as well, instead of thinking, relax your shoulders, if you start thinking, let me find, like I do things like, let me find a tree or a line or something straight up and down and try to literally line myself up, with it. And my job is to pull my feet. All of a sudden you start connecting with movement. And if I'm thinking about what to do, that's how the other muscles relax.
Yeah. So then you said that we have another success story of somebody that's been struggling with it.
Yes. So that's a great story. So she has been kind of where this runner is, where she's like, when I think about doing what you're telling me to do, I actually feel stiff and I feel tense and I'm not enjoying my running because I'm just thinking about my running and instead of thinking about so anyway, we've been doing the same stuff, work on, thinking about when you're running, run, have fun with it, you're running, like, but the thoughts of being lifted, those thoughts of unweighting. And Caroline, you're really good at this. You'll tell people your thoughts manifest. If you're thinking light, if you're thinking up, if you're thinking unweighting, before you know it, that's actually going to be happening. Instead of wondering, am I doing it right? Are my shoulders relaxed? Or, like, am I bending my knees? Am I, so then you're limiting your own movement because you're trying to be controlling, right?
Exactly. It's that whole, I always say, like, race car drivers, that they think, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. So
right.
So
or I hope no one
hits
me. I hope no one hits me. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right. I hope, I hope I don't trip. I hope I don't trip. I trip, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with this. But what's so hard for runners is this idea that think light, think up, think that just, it's like your brain goes, no.
Well, let me
It's
say
not
this
light.
too, because she did, this was the end of her glorious story, because she used that actual word. She said, I finally, and now she went out for a long run, like 10 to 12 miles. And she said, I went in and out of that feeling of feeling glorious. She called it glorious. Like, I'm running, I'm breathing hard, my heart rate's up, but my body and my mind are like connected. And guys, a lot of runners, like, you'll hear them talk about being in the zone, or a lot of people talk about like running easy. You got to run easy, all this stuff. And my thing is, first you have to know what running is. Like, what does running even feel like, to know how it can make it easy or hard, or be in a certain zone. And so a lot of times we're looking for that feeling without knowing how to find it.
Right.
And so that's the beauty of the practice of the drills, of having you put yourself in that place where you will find it. Because if you keep putting yourself in the right position when you're outside or on a treadmill or wherever you're running, all of a sudden it starts to connect. And the more you connect with it, then of course you can be more relaxed because you're better at it. You're more comfortable with it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I'm pretty good at this.
Well, and it's so important, guys, that's part of, we talk about the mental side of running. It's so important with what you're thinking about, because I know the one that was just talking about how glorious it is to run now. She has fought for a really long time about her thoughts. And a lot of what her thoughts are, when she does start thinking, I'm not doing this right, or I feel this doesn't feel right. Like, she gets into these negative spaces, and her thoughts have to do more about, like, I'm going to let down Valerie. My coach isn't going to like what I'm doing. Or And so when you start thinking about other people or negative thoughts, it really weighs you down. So, but you can't, so you're in this, like, I'm not going to do this right. So you're feeling all heavy. And then, your coach wants you to think, I'm going to feel light. And that feels crazy. Like, we call it the river of misery. It's like you can't get from one side to the other because it seems so far away. So what I think she started doing was, I'm going to unweight, right? I'm going to lift my shoulders. I'm going to be untense. You have to take these little baby steps and practice them little by little. And by now, after working on it, right, little by little, she didn't just like walk out the door and go, now I'm light. She worked on it little by little. She was unweighting. I'm going to loosen my shoulders. Okay, I'm unweighted. Okay, I'm feeling tight again. I'm going to loosen my shoulders, right? And now it feels glorious. Now it feels light. But I can tell you that when she started, when we were telling her things like, think light, think effortless, she thought we were nuts.
Oh yeah. Well, and also this is my challenge to everybody, because it's still so popular to say, it's just common lingo. Like, hey guys, just run some easy miles, do an easy warm up.
Yeah.
We hear this is in almost every training plan I see. This is what I see all the time. And here's the challenge is, if I'm that runner and it's not easy for me and running is hard for me, I already have a feeling. And she said that she's in a running group, I think. And her coach will say that. And for her coach, running is easy. See what I mean? And so then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I must be doing something wrong. So you're already kind of, so then here comes these two ladies that are like, oh, no. One, I'll never tell you it's easy. I don't think running is easy. I think it can be
Right.
much less. I think it can be much less effort. You can be so
Right.
much better at it. You can be more efficient. But I will always say running is a challenge. But having us come in and say, no. It's let go of your miles, let go of your distance, let go of your heart rate, let go of these paces, and just connect with running. Like, take your watch off. She was like, y'all out of your minds,
Yeah.
So she had to go through, and a lot of people do. Like, you have to reconnect with your running as well, especially if you're like, I'm not feeling what I want to feel. Then let go of these external things and work on just, what do I feel and how can I feel better?
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
And so next week, we're going to be talking about some other aspects, some things I've been reading, and we're going to be opening up our new virtual clinic coming up in a couple weeks. So I hope you guys will join us. Stay with us. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, give us 5 stars, share us with your friends. That's how more people will find out about our podcast, and we can help more runners run pain-free. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRx podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.